Jim Bender is a career businessman who has spent his life taking low-performing companies and turning them into much more successful companies. Serving as president of Logicraft, one of the largest growing private companies in America, he has helped it grow by over tenfold. Throughout Mr. Bender's life, he has been part of many charitable foundations, such as joining with the church to help raise money for local projects. He believes he can be a good problem solver, and his management skills will bring a new look to Washington, and that these skills will help create New Hampshire jobs.
Welcome to the show, Jim. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rachel.
Let's get started. What is the role of the federal government in public education? And as a U.S. Senator, what will you do to help improve the public education in Manchester?
Okay. Well, the role of the federal government is to ensure that all students in America have access to a quality education and equal access to educational services and opportunities, because every student deserves a quality education. I also think that the federal government can help because the federal government has visibility into what's going on in all 50 states. So in terms of ensuring best practices throughout school systems, the federal government can provide an advisory role. But I do think that the role of the federal government is limited in local education. It should be the state's responsibility with the local school boards to set curriculum, to license teachers, and to decide how money obtained from local real estate taxes is dispersed in the school system. So the role of the federal government is really a limited role when it comes to education. Now, as far as here in Manchester, I think that based on recent testing, Manchester schools can use some improvement in both mathematics scores and English scores. So I'd like to work with Manchester schools to make sure that we get the best teachers possible in the school systems, that we teach in an improvement plan school, that students who wish to go to charter schools have access to charter schools. There's only 11 charter schools throughout New Hampshire right now. And there's a waiting list for charter schools. Anyone who wants to go to a charter school, I believe, should have an opportunity to do so.
Thank you. In October of 2001, bombing commenced in Afghanistan, marking the start of 8+ years of American involvement. Much has been made lately about the strategy regarding Afghanistan. How do you define success in Afghanistan? And as a U.S. Senator, what steps will you propose taking to ensure the success?
Okay. Well, I think in Afghanistan, we've recently had a surge. We've added 30,000 troops at the suggestion of General Petraeus. I think we need to wait until at least the end of the year 2010 to see how that is working out. As far as how I would define success in Afghanistan, first it would be to a military strategy that assures that the Taliban no longer has access to the population. As long as they have access to the population, they can coerce the population to be cooperative. If American forces can keep the Taliban isolated, then over time they become irrelevant. The second area that we can help is that 80% of the Afghan people derive their income from agriculture. And we have to assure that we keep farmers from growing heroin in the poppy fields, and that's an area where American influence can be felt as well.
Thank you. It is likely that today's youth will inherit the current economic crisis. What groundwork will you lay to help young Americans achieve prosperity within the next generation?
Well, boy, I'm glad you asked me that question. Let me start by talking a little bit about just how bad the situation is. Over the last 10 years, the size of our federal government has actually doubled. This year, the government will spend $3.8 trillion. 10 years ago, it spent $1.9 trillion. So it's doubled in 10 years while doing essentially the same things that it did 10 years ago. So our government's just become much too big, and we're running record deficits. And by the end of this year, our deficits will hit our debt will hit $14 trillion. But that's only the tip of the iceberg, because we have unfunded liabilities because of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, of about $88 trillion. Now, one of the problems with the numbers trillion, billion, and million is that they all sound so much alike. But if you think of a million as a raisin, a billion as a watermelon, and a trillion as a hot air balloon, that sort of puts it in scale. $1 trillion is a lot. And put another way, 1 trillion seconds ago here on planet Earth was the beginning of multicellular life. So when you have $88 trillion worth of debts, that's enormous. And what this is really doing is it's robbing future generations, including your generation, of opportunities. And it's also not only robbing our youth, but it's robbing the elderly people in our country too. Over the last 10 years, while we've seen this enormous expansion of our government, our dollar has declined by over 40%. In the year 2000, it took only 78 cents to buy a euro. Today, it's up close to $1.40. So we're destroying our currency at an enormous rate. And if I can segue into a minute as to what does this mean for your parents or grandparents, if your grandparents, Rachel, went on Social Security 10 years ago, and they thought, boy, I've worked my whole life, now I can retire, I'm going to be all set. What's happened in the last 10 years is they've seen not only their savings erode by 40%, but their fixed income has eroded by 40%. So we need a much more responsible government. And what we have to do is really cut back on federal spending. We're just spending much, much too much. And let me reduce this to the size of your family. I see your mom's over here in the studio. So I want to take the whole federal budget and reduce it to what's going on at your house. Let's say that your mom and dad say, okay, our family income is $50,000 a year, just to pick a number out of the air. But to put the debt in proportion to income, the family debt is $2 million a year. So if you can imagine that, your family makes $50,000 a year, but your debt is $2 million a year. Now that's almost a hopeless situation. But to compound things, your family is going to spend $88,000 this year. So your mom and dad call you and your brothers and sisters together around the kitchen table and say, you know, family, we just can't keep spending this much money. We have too much debt, and we're spending way more than we're making. So mom and dad say to you and your brothers and sisters, I'm going to give you the summer, 90 days, to come up with how the family can save $2.30. And that's precisely what President Obama did last March of 2009. He called the cabinet together and asked for $100 million worth of cuts. And $100 million worth of cuts out of a $3.5 trillion budget is about 0.03%. The US government spends $100 million every 15 minutes of every day. So we have to cut a lot deeper than that. You know, if our government is spending twice the money today that it spent 10 years ago, then there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to cut back by 20%, and we have to do that. We have to do that because, for a number of reasons. First of all, as I pointed out, we're destroying the value of our dollar, but we're also saddling our economy with a huge burden. And this is destroying job creation. And you know, you're a sophomore in college right now, right?
High school.
You're a sophomore in high school? Oh my goodness, you look very mature for your age. All right, so you're a sophomore in high school, and 6 years from now, you're going to be graduating from college, and you're going to be looking for a job. The only, you know, my children just went through this. I have a 23-year-old daughter who just graduated in June, and a 25-year-old daughter who happens to be a television reporter. And a lot of both my daughter's friends still have not found jobs. Now we've got to restore our American economy, and the way we do that is we shrink the size of the government and stop doing destructive things in our government that hurt jobs. One of the things that we're doing is we've got taxes way too high, and particularly the capital gains tax, which affects how much money businesses can raise. Also, businesses, they can't predict what their labor costs are going to be right now because of this card check program. They can't predict what their energy costs are going to be because of the cap and trade legislation. They can't even predict what their health care costs are going to be because of this massive new bill that just went through the Congress and with the government taking it over. So if you're a businessman, and ultimately that's where jobs come from, businesses. They don't come from the government. If you're a businessman and you look forward and you say, gosh, I can't predict my tax rates, I can't predict my energy costs, I can't predict my labor costs, and I can't even predict my health insurance costs, you're going to be very, very careful about not hiring too many new people. So we've got to do the exact opposite of what the federal government's doing and downscale and get the government out of the way. A couple things that we could do to be helpful as senators would be things like accelerate depreciation schedules. Now, you probably don't really know what that is, but if you could basically give businesses a tax break when they buy new capital equipment, then this business buys from that business, and that helps stimulate this business, and pretty soon we start seeing everybody getting healthier. That's one of the things we could do. In the final analysis, we all have to realize that the government can't give you anything unless it first takes it from somebody else. So the government's taking $10 out of your back pocket, giving you back $1, and expecting you to be grateful. We'd all be better off if they just didn't take the $10 out of your back pocket to begin with. So that's kind of a long answer to your question, but
Thank you.
yeah.
What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Since I started running for Senate, I don't have any more free time. No, we're so busy. Gosh, it's a 7-day-a-week job. But when I used to have free time, in the wintertime, I like to ski. And I ski at Waterville and Loon. I like to ski at Sunapee for a day trip. I'm a swimmer. I try to stay in good shape. So, you know, if I can get out to the beach, out to Hampton Beach, that's great. I like to bicycle. And I really like to spend time with my family. You know, we're very close, and both my daughters live here in New Hampshire, so we see them pretty regularly. This weekend's Mother's Day, so we're going to spend the weekend with Mom, and you know, that is my wife. So that's kind of what I like to do.
Thank you. And finally, why do you deserve my first vote?
That's a very good question. I think that first and foremost, I'm not a politician, and I don't think we want any more politicians in Washington. Part of our problem right now is we get too many people to go to Washington and then they just never come back out. You know, we have congressmen that have been there 35, 40, 45 years, and a lot of them have never actually had a real job anywhere else except in Washington. And they become disconnected when they're in Washington that long. They stop needing the voters. They become so powerful that you can't get them out. So I want to go to Washington to do three things. The first is to reform the system. I think there's just too much corruption in Washington. And the opposite of corruption, in my view, is trust. And trust comes from being competent and having integrity. And that's what we need to bring back to Washington is there's too many of them right now that just have a sense of entitlement that simply knows no bounds. And we've got to get back to a standard of being a public servant again. And that's what I hope to do. The Declaration of Independence had a terrific closing which summarized for me what being a public servant is. The 56 people who signed the Declaration of Independence, 3 of them were from here in New Hampshire, Matthew Thornton, Josiah Bartlett, and William Whipple. They and 53 others made history in 1776. And the last line of the Declaration said, "We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." And I just think that's brilliant. You know, they held the American people above themselves as true servants. And that's what we've got to get back to in Washington, not people in Washington who will vote things for themselves that don't apply to the American people, or vote things for the American people and then they exempt themselves. We've got to get back to a standard of public servant. Nothing should be named after any public servant until at least 10 years after they're gone. And you know, so that's point 1, is attack corruption and restore trust. Point 2 is we have to downsize the government because it's just gotten very irresponsible and we don't need this much government. Do you know that $1 out of every 4 that's produced in America goes to our federal government? That's just way too much. Traditionally, it's been about 17%. It's now up to 25%. So we've got to cut that back because it's way, way too much overhead on our system. And that leads me to the third thing, which is create jobs. The best way for us to create jobs, and we've lost 8.4 million jobs in America in just the last 2.5 years, and we have 55,000 people who are unemployed here in New Hampshire. If we shrink the size of our government, we might be able to grow through this and get those people back to work, and that's what we have to do. So there's 3 things that I want to work on and why I think I deserve your vote. 1, I'm going to clean up Washington. We need a leaner and cleaner federal government. 2, make it leaner. So first, clean it up. Second, make it leaner. And third, if we do these things, then we'll create job growth, and that's what I hope to do in Washington.
Thank you for joining us today.
Rachel, thank you for having me. This is great. You're a very good interviewer.
Thank you.